أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيد الخلق أجمعين أبي القاسم محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأصحابه الغر الميامين. Respected Muslim brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the previous lecture, we covered how the Islamic caliphate was transformed during the reign of the third Khalifa Uthman ibn Affan, and how the changes that he made to the caliphate's administration impacted the Muslim world in general. It led to his violent overthrow and assassination at the head of by a rebellion headed by many prominent companions of the Prophet within his own home in Medina al-Munawwara. And so when we last left off, the Muslim state is now in chaos because the Khalifa has just been killed in the capital, and for the next 3 days, there was no Khalifa. And so at this point, it was anyone's game, as we would say. The caliphate was up in the air. Anyone smart enough and powerful enough to grab it, now this was their chance. And so today, inshallah, what we're going to cover is how Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi became the Khalifa, what his early moves were, and what the build-up towards the Battle of Jamal was. What exactly happened in the first couple months of Imam Ali's Khilafah that led to Ma'rakat al-Jamal, that led to the fitna of the Nakithin in Basra. And so today we're not going to get to the Battle of Jamal. My original intention was to cover the Battle of Jamal today, but I realized that there's so much detail and so many important factors leading up to the Battle of Jamal within just the first couple months of Imam Ali's Khilafah that it would be criminal not to cover them. And the thing is, I have not seen any khatib, any lecture, any videos ever cover the story in as much depth that I would like to cover it in today. So inshallah, all of you benefit, and inshallah, you will see what exactly the Muslim Ummah had missed out on during the reign of the first three caliphs. How is Ali ibn Abi Talib's style of leadership, his style of ruling, how is it different than, say, the first Khalifa, second Khalifa, third Khalifa, and then later, after his assassination, inshallah, unfortunately, you will be able to compare Imam Ali's Khilafah to the hard kingship of Ali Umayyah and eventually Ibn al-Abbas. With that being said, let's continue where we last left off. After Uthman's assassination within his own home in Medina, as we mentioned, the Khilafah is now up in the air. And so the rebels were now in control of Medina. Now these rebels had come together for one purpose, and that was to defeat Uthman and to overthrow him. But these rebels did not exactly agree on who should become Khalifa next, because you have to remember, there were elements of rebellion that came from Basra. There were elements of rebellion that came from Kufa, led by Malik al-Ashtar and, supported by Ammar ibn Yasir. And then there were elements that came from Egypt, led by Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr and the other prominent Sahaba, the Ahl of Bay'at al-Ridwan, such as Muhammad ibn Abi Hudayfa and Uthman ibn Udays al-Balawi, these two prominent leaders of the Egyptian rebels. So this rebellion that had started from various parts in the Islamic Caliphate and had climaxed in Medina al-Munawwara had succeeded in overthrowing Uthman. But now the Khilafah was up for grabs. So who's going to become Khalifa next? How is the Khalifa going to be chosen? Because keep in mind, Khilafah at this point still kind of figuring out what it is. By the time you get to Bani Umayyah, Bani al-Abbas, it's hard kingship. A Khalifa becomes just like an emperor in Europe or, in China, for example. It's just one king rules, he gets old, he dies, his son inherits it, and so on and so forth. It's just hereditary monarchy. At this point, that's not what it was yet. At this point, many Muslims were under the different impressions of what the Khilafah should be. Many advocated for Umar's philosophy. Umar's philosophy was, there is no Khilafah without Mashura, which ironically is not the way he helped Abu Bakr become Khalifa. Right? Others, such as Ali and his supporters, believed that the Khilafah and the Imamah was the haqq of the Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salam. That there was no Shura needed. That the Khalifa had already been appointed by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And still there were those elements that had gained power under Uthman ibn Affan that viewed the Islamic State as the natural possession of Ali Umayyah. And they weren't quite ready to let it go. Even though Uthman had died, they were not ready to give up their power. And so in the early period, in these first couple of days, one group of rebels decides to make a move. This group of rebels was the group led by Talha, or the group that wanted Talha ibn Ubaidillah, the prominent companion and Aisha's cousin. He's from the same tribe as Abu Bakr Bani Taym. These people wanted him to become the Khalifa. And so what did they do? They gathered in a meeting in the house of Al-Makhrama, the father of Miswar ibn Makhrama. They gathered together and they tried to have a meeting. They tried to pull off another Saqifa, basically. So they gathered together, they had a meeting in order to choose the next Khalifa. And in the middle of this discussion, right, many prominent Sahaba attended this discussion. One of them was Ammar ibn Yasir, radwanullahi ta'ala alayh. In the middle of this discussion, someone asked, he said, wait a minute. After we choose a Khalifa, we're going to avenge Uthman's death, right? And so Talha, despite playing a big role in the overthrow of Uthman, because he was so eager for the caliphate, what did he do? He said, yes, of course, after we choose the Khalifa, we will take out the killers of Uthman. Because keep in mind, Talha had agitated the people against Uthman, but he was not one of the people who personally killed him. So now he was willing to throw his fellow rebels under the bus in order to take the Khilafah for himself. What he wasn't counting on was Ammar. Ammar was in that meeting and he successfully blocked Talha. He stopped them from pulling another Saqifa. How? He immediately stood up. He said, no vengeance for Uthman. Uthman was, there is no vengeance to demand for Uthman. And so people began arguing, and now Talha, the initiative that he had taken, the gamble that he had taken, had failed. And so they walked out of the meeting without having agreed. And so Ammar radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, he had successfully blocked Talha. One of Imam Ali's supporters had, stopped them from pulling off another Saqifa, essentially. And so for the next 3 days, again, no one is quite able to take control of the situation. The people of Iraq, the people of Kufa and Basra, who basically their de facto leader was Malik al-Ashtar, had made it clear even before Uthman was killed that Ali was their leader. And so Imam Ali salamullahi alayhi told his followers, he said, don't use violence. So it wasn't the Kufans and the Basrans that had killed Uthman. It was the part of the Egyptian faction that had taken the initiative to kill Uthman. Imam Ali's supporters were now waiting for the right opportunity. And now that they saw that the Khilafah was up for grabs and that Ammar had successfully stopped Talha from claiming it for himself, now they seized the initiative. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, according to the report that is traced back to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, he says, me and Imam Ali, we were in the mosque when we heard that Uthman was killed. And so there's two different reports. One report says that Imam Ali, on his way back home, someone came to him and he said, Amir, you're a foolish man, Ali. You're from Quraysh and your cousin Uthman has just been killed. And now you're letting the Khilafah slip through your fingers. And so Imam Ali, he got mad. He went back into the mosque and said, everyone, I'm the Khalifa now. And then everyone gave him bay'ah. That's one report. This report we rejected because it has some weaknesses in it. It's chronologically, there's a few issues with it. I won't get into the details. The other report, it says that Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen salamullahi alayhi, after his home was surrounded and his followers made it clear that they wanted him for Khalifa, he reluctantly said, I will become Khalifa, but only if my bay'ah is in public. And so Imam Ali, he went to the mosque and all the prominent Sahaba were there. And he made it clear, him and his followers made it clear that he would become the next Khalifa. This is the one they wanted. Now, Talha and Zubair were in the room. Talha, during the rebellion, during the chaos of the rebellion to overthrow Uthman, he managed to snatch up a very important ace card. What was it? The keys to the treasury. He had managed to snatch them up. Aisha refers to this in Mecca when she talks to Ibn Abbas. Says, Talha has seized the keys to the treasury. He's so close to winning. He's so close to overthrowing Uthman ibn Abbas. All you have to do is help him. So Talha, he's got the keys. Talha, he's got supporters. But Imam Ali's supporters, his followers, were more numerous and they were one step ahead of him. They managed to get Imam Ali there first. Not to mention Ammar had brought the Imam some time by going in and ruining their little meeting, their little secret meeting. And so Imam Ali, he took the bay'ah from the Muslims. Talha and Zubair are said to be among the first people to give bay'ah. There are reports, ironically, from Ali Zubair and from Talha's son. You know what they say? They say Talha and Zubair did not give bay'ah willingly. That Al-Ashtar drew out his sword. He said, Imam, I will strike the neck of anyone who doesn't give you bay'ah. And so Talha and Zubair, they came and gave bay'ah. This isn't true. These stories were made up for one purpose, in order to absolve Talha and Zubair of breaking their bay'ah. because Talha and Zubair gave bay'ah and then they broke it later. They gave allegiance to Imam Ali and then they rebelled against him. And so this looks bad. I say, wait a minute, you guys gave bay'ah to the Imam and then you rebelled against them. So no, we didn't. You know, Al Zubair, Zubair's kids and Talha's kids. Like, no, that's not how it went down. They were forced to give bay'ah. So we know for a fact that this isn't true, based off of the fact that there are other people who did not give bay'ah to the Imam, or who are said to have not given bay'ah to the Imam. Imam Ali did not force them or punish them whatsoever. He certainly did not use violence. In fact, one historian, what does he write? He says there is less evidence of violence being used in Ali's bay'ah than Abu Bakr's bay'ah. Abu Bakr's bay'ah, Sa'd ibn Ubadah got beat up at Saqifa. Abu Bakr's bay'ah, his men had to flood the streets and intimidate people into giving bay'ah. Abu Bakr's bay'ah, they had to surround Fatima's house and force the opposition out in order to give bay'ah by use of threats and intimidation. That's not how Imam Ali became the Khalifa. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayh, when Talha gave him bay'ah, what did he say? He said, Talha, hand over the keys. Imam Ali's followers took the keys from Talha, they gave it to the Imam. Imam Ali, you know what he did? For the first three caliphs, you know what their policy was? You know, the Quraysh, they get more ata than everyone else. If you're Qurayshi, you get a higher rate of ata, of money from the treasury, you get a higher portion than everyone else. Right? Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, you know what he did? He went to the treasury, he opened the treasury, and he began giving ata to everyone equally. All of the Ansar and all of the people who come from the weak tribes and all of those people who had been denied their share or had been, essentially locked out and sidelined during the reign of the first three Khalifas, now they were getting their share. And so Imam Ali's supporters, as you can imagine, who were they? They were the poor people, the downtrodden, the Ansar, who had been denied positions under the first three caliphs. But who became Ali's opposition? Quraysh. How dare Ali ibn Abi Talib give these people the same amount as us? How dare he end the traditions of the first two caliphs? Right? Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, politically, this was a genius move because Ali, salamullahi alayhi, had promised that he would return the ummah back to the law of Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wa, to the law of Allah and his messenger. And immediately after becoming Khalifa, he immediately set out to do so. Right? Regarding the people that did not give bay'ah to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, there's a few famous ones. One of them is Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, the hero of Qadisiyah. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, when Imam Ali asked him to give bay'ah, what did he say to him? He said to Imam Ali, La alayka minni ba's. Ali, you don't have anything to worry about from me. Imam Ali let him go. Ibn Umar, Abdullah ibn Umar, he came in. And he said to Amir al-Mu'mineen, he said, Ali, I'm not going to give you bay'ah unless the people all give you bay'ah. And so you know what Imam Ali said? He said, Ibn Umar, how do I know you're telling the truth? Are you willing to swear in front of a witness that you will come give me bay'ah after everyone else gives bay'ah? Abdullah ibn Umar said, no. Malik al-Ashtar said, Imam, let me deal with him. I'll be the witness. Imam Ali said, let him go. I've known him since he was a child and he's ill-natured. In Arabic say, ma bihad hada, let him go. Abdullah ibn Umar, you know what he later did? Later, when Imam Ali was solidifying his government, he said to Ali, Ali, fear Allah and do ashura. And then he left Medina and went to Mecca. It's Abdullah ibn Umar. Usama ibn Zayd is another famous Sahabi who did not give bay'ah to Imam Ali. And he has a very interesting story. Usama ibn Zayd is the son of Zayd ibn Haritha, who was Rasulullah's adopted son. Usama ibn Zayd, during the lifetime of Rasulullah, he had killed someone on the battlefield who before Usama stabbed him, he cried out, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Usama stabbed him. He killed him right then and there. Rasulullah, when he saw this, he was upset. He said, Usama, why did you kill him? Tell me, Ya Rasulullah, he was only saying that because he's scared. He's a kafir. He said, Usama, no, you did not open his heart and see what's in his heart. That's not for you to decide. Usama, after this experience, this mess up that he did, he said, Wallah, I will never fight against anyone who says La ilaha illallah again. So he told Imam Ali, he said, Ali, you're like an uncle to me, you're like family to me, but I won't give you bay'ah and I won't fight for you. Abu Mikhnaf says something very interesting. Abu Mikhnaf believes, he reports, all of these people gave bay'ah to Imam Ali, but then they broke the bay'ah when he told them to fight for him at Jamal. And this is the view that I think is more accurate. These people, they all gave bay'ah to the Imam because they saw everyone else doing it, right? But then what did they do? When Imam Ali asked them to fight for him, they refused. And Imam Ali did not force them to fight for him. Hence why Osama ibn Zayd, he says, Imam, I won't fight anyone. How did Osama know there was going to be a fight? You see, the chronology of this report is very, very important. Now, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, now we get to this point. There were various Ansar who did not give bay'ah. And in a report that comes from one of Imam Ali's great-grandchildren, his name is Abdullah ibn al-Hasan ibn Ali. So Abdullah ibn al-Hasan al-Muthanna, Imam Ali's great-grandson. He says there were a few Ansar, most of the Ansar supported Imam Ali, but there were a few who did not support him. One of them is Hassan ibn Thabit, the poet, who I'll talk about in a second, Ka'b ibn Malik, Uthman's treasurer, Zayd ibn Thabit, Maslama ibn Mukhallad al-Khazraji, who later became the governor of Egypt for Muawiyah and Yazid, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, and Nu'man ibn Bashir. Nu'man ibn Bashir, if any of you guys know the story of Imam al-Hussein, he's the governor. He later became the governor of Kufa for Muawiyah. Muawiyah rewarded him generously for his opposition to the Ahlul Bayt. And then when he couldn't stop Muslim ibn Aqil, Yazid replaced him with Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Now, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, by the way, no one knows why he didn't give bay'ah to Imam Ali at this point, or why he's included in this report. But we know for a fact that he fought for Imam Ali at Siffin and Nahrawan. And so we have a positive view of Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, radwanullahi ta'ala alayh. Hassan ibn Thabit is an interesting one. Hassan ibn Thabit was known as the poet of Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Whenever there was an enemy of Rasulullah that was getting on his nerves, or who was talking trash about Rasulullah, Hassan ibn Thabit, what did he do? He would write a poem destroying that person. Like Hassan was an amazing poet. Hassan, when Imam Ali became the Khalifa at Ghadir Khum, when Rasulullah proclaimed his Khilafah, Hassan ibn Thabit read an amazing poet for Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi. And you know what Rasulullah said to him? He said to him, Hassan, Allah will aid you and your poetry with Ruh al-Qudus, with the Holy Spirit, so long as you are loyal to me and my Ahlul Bayt. So why did Rasulullah say this? It's because Rasulullah, it seems like he knew Hassan later, yanqulub, he would flip. And so Hassan did not give bay'ah to Imam Ali, salamullahi alayhi. And so these Ansar, many of them, where did they go? Many of them made a beeline for Damascus. They went to join forces with Muawiyah. Nu'man ibn Bashir is one of the most well-known ones, as he was one of Muawiyah's biggest allies. His father, al-Bashir, was the first one of the Ansar to give bay'ah to Abu Bakr. The Ansar, most of them opposed Abu Bakr. He was the first one to break rank with the rest of the Ansar and switch over. Now, Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, at this point, he is in firm control of Medina. The people of Medina, his faction, the Shia, have managed to overwhelm his opponents and make him the Khalifa. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, at this point, Uthman's governors are still all over the place. Chaos, right? There's multiple factions around. Imam Ali, despite that, the first thing he do is give the ata to the people. Imam Ali, salamullahi alayhi, made it clear he was not going to rule like the first three. His administration would be different. And so all of Imam Ali's opposition, where did they go? They went to Mecca. It's an interesting story. Talha and Zubair in Imam Ali, his first couple month or so of Khilafah. Because remember, Imam Ali became Khalifa 7 months later, Ma'rakat al-Jamal happened. So what we're talking about here is these first 7 months. They once came to visit Imam Ali. They said to him, they knocked on his door. Imam said, who is it? He said, it's us, it's Talha and Zubair. He said, okay, what do you want? Is it something personal or is it something, that concerns all of the Muslims? He said, yeah, Imam, it's something personal. Imam said, okay, hang on a minute. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, what did he do? He called to them a little, enter. He said, Imam, why did you keep us for like a minute or two? He said, because I was using a candle which was paid for from the public funds of the Muslims. If this is something personal, I have to use my own candle. I can't use the public candle for something that only concerns you. Talha and Zubair, you know what happened to them? They had come in because they wanted to say, Imam, we're Sahaba too. Zubair's like, I'm your cousin. You mind giving us one of those governorships? Basra, Kufa, Egypt, Sham, Yemen, Yamama, what do you say? But when they saw Ali ibn Abi Talib, not even on a candle, he's willing to compromise, they just came in, they said hi, and then they left. And then they went to join the opposition where? In Mecca. This report, some historians believe this report isn't true. They say, no. Zubayr and Talha did not turn against Ali because he didn't offer them, because he refused to give them position. Some say, no. Talha and Zubayr always planned to rebel against Ali. They just we're waiting for the right opportunity. And we have narrations that say Imam Ali, they said to him, we want to go to Mecca. They said, why do you guys want to go to Mecca? He said, we want to do Umrah, Imam. Imam said, no, you don't. You don't want to do Umrah. I know exactly what you guys are going to do. And so he said to them, come and give me Baya again. They gave him Baya again. Then they went and immediately broke the Baya. In Mecca was becoming the focal point of the opposition. Because as I said, now there's three factions. There's Ali and his Shia. There's the people, I call them the Umaris, because they wanted Umar's philosophy of government. They say, it has to be Shura, it has to be from Quraysh, this thing belongs to us, it doesn't belong to Bani Hashim. And then you have the Banu Umayyah, right? Banu Umayyah, as of now, the shock of losing Uthman had politically sidelined them. They were licking their wounds. They couldn't make any moves yet. In fact, Muawiyah, when we cover Safin, I'll show you guys the moves he was making back in Syria. But the rest of Banu Umayyah, ironically, you know what happened to them when Uthman was killed? They went and hid in the house of Habiba, the Umayyad wife of Rasulullah. Something in English called a granary. It's the place in the house where you put all the grain and then you use it to make your bread. She hid them in there. When Uthman was killed, immediately they popped out and they made a beeline for Mecca. In Mecca, the Ummahatul Mu'mineen, Salama and Aisha, were doing Hajj. Aisha, on the way back to Medina, she gets the news. What's going on? What happened in Medina? It's one of her relatives from her mother's side. He says to her, Aisha, it was crazy, man. Uthman was killed. They straight murdered him. They straight slaughtered him. Your brother Muhammad, straight stabbed the man. Aisha says, oh, okay. What happened next? Well, there was no Khalifa for 3 days. All right. What happened? Talha, you had the keys to the treasury. Okay, right. Zubayr and my nephew Abdullah. Yeah. But the people elected Ali ibn Abi Talib. They rallied around him, and now he's the Khalifa. Aisha's eyes lit on fire. Just imagine the steam coming out of her ears. She said, take me back to Mecca. Take me back to Mecca. I'm not going back to Medina. Take me back. She said, now Aisha was one of Uthman's main opponents. What's she crying? Uthman was killed while he was oppressed, and I will demand vengeance for his blood. And so all of Uthman's allies and all of Imam Ali's opposition, where were they gathering? They were gathering in Mecca. All of them. Some of Ali's opponents, where did they go? They went to Syria. They're like, no, I'm going to throw my lot in with Muawiyah. He'll know what to do in this situation. The others, no, they gathered in Mecca. And subhanallah, the opposition to Imam Ali, the same people, you look at their names, all of them were enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In the early days of his Risalah, from where? In Mecca was their base of power. Imam Ali had just taken power in Medina. Where did all his opponents rally against him? In Mecca. Right? And so the opponents, they met in Mecca. In Mecca, it was, Nasb was the name of the game. And I'll give you a few examples. Marwan ibn al-Hakam is one of the people who went to Mecca. Marwan, who had caused the whole debacle, who has so much responsibility on his shoulders for the death of Uthman, he stood up and he started reciting poetry. It's like, oh people, Ali is the one who killed Uthman. He must pay for what he did. He killed his own relative. He killed a fellow Qurayshi. He killed Amir al-Mu'mineen. Another famous person, Safwan ibn Umayyah. Safwan ibn Umayyah, his father al-Umayyah, was one of the arch enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If any of you have read the seerah of Rasulullah, Safwan is the one who was torturing Bilal radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi. He was Bilal's master, the one who tried to crush him under the sun with the heavy rock. Remember? Bilal radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi, after the battle of Badr, he heard that he had been captured. He said, Wallah, today Umayyah will not escape me. He went, he found Umayyah, he killed him. This is his son Safwan ibn Umayyah. He became a Muslim during the fall of Mecca. Now he's in Mecca. What is he doing? He's reciting poetry. Oh people, Ali is the one who killed Uthman. Are you going to sit by and let this man rob you of your leadership? Are you going to let him go for killing your Khalifa, for killing Amir al-Mu'mineen? The atmosphere in Mecca was against Imam Ali. But Imam Ali, luckily, he had allies in Mecca. Who were his allies? One of them was Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas had been doing Hajj. That's how he met Aisha, right? And they had that famous dialogue that's from Tabari. He went back to Medina and informed Imam Ali. He's like, Imam, things are not looking good. The people of Mecca have made it clear that they are opposed to you. Who's the other one? المؤمنين سلمة سلام الله عليها. أخواني الأعزاء, سلمة سلام الله عليها, when you read about her, Wallah al-Azim, it's absolutely beautiful, this woman's love for the Prophet and for his Ahlul Bayt. Wallah, we are honored to call ourselves from the same sect as Salama, Salamullah alayha. We are proud to call her our mother, not only legally, but spiritually as well. Salama, Salamullah alayha, I can't think of a single situation where the Ahlul Bayt were oppressed that she did not stand up for them. And this was no different. She told Aisha, says, what are you doing? What are you rallying the people to this for? Why are you doing this? Aisha brushed her off. Salama, she went back to Medina and she sent a message to Imam Ali. She's like, Imam, these people, look at what they're doing. These people have made it clear that they are not your allies. These people are planning something. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullahi alayhi, while his opponents are gathered in Mecca, scheming, right? You know, making it clear that the old tribal mentality of Quraysh was still alive and well. Imam Ali was in Medina trying to fix the mess that Uthman had left behind. Ibn Abbas reports the story. He says, you know, I came into Ali's office and I saw Al-Mughira leaving. Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah was one of the most clever and cunning of the Arabs. I'm about to show you what he does later. Al-Mughira, when he walked out, Ibn Abbas came in, he's like, you know, cousin, Imam, what did he want? He said to me, Ibn Abbas, Mughira told me, he said, you know, I think it would be good if you were to let Muawiyah and some of Uthman's governors keep their positions. Because, you know, these people, they don't care about Uthman. They don't care about who's in charge as long as they get to keep their power. That would be the politically right thing to do. Imam Ali, you know what he said to Al-Mughira? He said, I'll never do that. Me letting people like this rule over the ummah is haram. I will never allow it. Al-Mughira, he said, oh, you never listen to advice, Ali. You never listen to those who try to advise you. He left. He came back the next day. And this is the meeting that Ibn Abbas saw him walk out of. He said, you know, Ali, I got to admit, the advice that you rejected yesterday, that is the right thing to do. Imam Ali saw Al-Mughira as just an opportunist. He's trying to get in good and maybe get a position. Imam Ali just ignored him and sent him away. Ibn Abbas said to him, you know, Imam, his advice to you, his political advice is correct. But the second time he talked to you, he tried to deceive you. Imam Ali said, I will never rule the way that Al-Mughira wants me to rule. Muawiyah and his cohorts, Ibn Abi Sarh, and all of these people, I'm going to remove them all. By the way, that reminds me, before I forget, Al-Walid ibn Uqba, remember the guy that Imam Ali had lashed for getting drunk in Kufa? When Uthman died, Marwan went to Mecca. He went to Damascus. He went to join forces with Muawiyah. Imam Ali salamullah alayhi, what did he do? He replaced every single one of Uthman's governors that he could. The only one he did not replace was Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, because Malik al-Ashtar, before the rebellion against Uthman, had overthrown Uthman's governor and replaced him with Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. And so he said to Imam Ali, said, Imam, you know, Ahl al-Kufa like Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. I think you should keep him. Imam said, okay, that's fine. We'll keep Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Remember the guy who narrates the hadith of the Prophet eating chicken? This is him. He becomes important later, so pay attention, right? Imam Ali salamullah alayhi, what did he do? He appointed Uthman ibn Hunayf over Basra. Uthman ibn Hunayf, he plays a big part in Ma'rakat al-Jamal. Uthman's governor, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn Qurayz, when he heard about Uthman's death, where did he go? He went to Mecca, and he left in his place Abdullah ibn Amr al-Hadrami. Uthman ibn Hunayf, he arrived in Basra, he said, oh people, I am Imam Ali's governor. So the people of Basra came, gave bay'ah to Imam Ali, and they arrested Abdullah ibn Amr al-Hadrami. Imam Ali over Egypt, who did he appoint? He appointed Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ubadah. Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ubadah, his father, was the leader of the Ansar. Sa'd ibn Ubadah, he's the one who stood up to Abu Bakr al-Saqifa, and later he was assassinated mysteriously in the reign of Umar. And so Imam Ali making him governor was a huge deal for the Ansar, because they considered him one of their chiefs, right? Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ubadah is one of the most loyal supporters of Imam Ali and Imam al-Hasan. And later when we cover Imam Ali's khilaf and the battles, you'll see the role that he plays. Imam Ali said to him, he said, why don't you take some guards, take a unit of soldiers and go to Egypt? Imam Ali, you know what Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ubadah said to him? He said, Imam, there's no need. I can handle this. Qais ibn Sa'd, he entered Egypt with only 7 men, and he managed to take control of the government. Muhammad ibn Abi Hudhayfa and Abd al-Rahman ibn Udais, the two leaders, the two Egyptian rebels who had participated in the siege of Uthman, when they heard that Ali had become Khalifa, had made himself Khalifa after the death of Uthman. They tried to go to Medina to join forces with him, but Muawiyah intercepted them and he locked them in prison. Later, they tried to escape. They managed to escape one night, but Muawiyah's guards chased after them and they killed them both. So these are two Sahaba from Bay'at al-Ridwan who participated in the revolt against Uthman and they were killed. Qais ibn Sa'd, however, even without their support, he managed to get Egypt under control. Uthman's supporters in Egypt were too weak to do anything about it. And so Qais managed to collect all the money, the tax money, and send it back to Imam Ali within the first couple of months. So we got Basra, Kufa, and Egypt. What's left? Yemen. Yemen is extremely important. Yemen, what ended up happening in Yemen? Imam Ali sent his cousin, Ubaydullah ibn Abbas, to go be the governor of Yemen. Ubaydullah ibn Abbas. Those of you saying that name sounds familiar, those of you who studied the story of Imam al-Hasan, this name will be familiar to you. And we'll see, inshallah, what he does under the Khilafah of Imam Ali. Ubaydullah ibn al-Abbas, when he went to Yemen, Uthman's governor of Yemen, Ya'la ibn Umayyah, this guy's very important, pay attention. Ya'la ibn Umayyah, what did he do? Immediately when he heard Uthman was dead, he went to the treasury, robbed all of the money in the treasury, and made a beeline for Mecca. So he took all that money and he went to Mecca. So Ubaydullah ibn Abbas came to Sana'a and he assumed control of the governorate of Yemen. Now there's only one province left, Syria. Imam Ali sent letters to Muawiyah and Muawiyah was stalling for time. He knew that he didn't know what was going on. It's like, I don't know if I have the strength to challenge Ali ibn Abi Talib yet. I got to wait and see. Right? And this is the cunning of Muawiyah. He said, let opponents bleed first. I got to weigh out my options. So one of the tricks that Muawiyah used, one of them, they say, Imam Ali sent him a letter. Muawiyah, you know what he responded? He said, from Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan to Ali ibn Abi Talib. And it's just an empty letter. There's nothing else written in it. So Muawiyah is stalling for time. Imam Ali is like, I'll deal with you in a bit. Give me some time. Let me get my affairs in order and then I'll deal with you. Meanwhile, in Mecca, right? Ya'la ibn Umayyah had arrived in Mecca and he saw all of Quraysh. They're scheming. They're getting ready for something. And so he decided, you know what, man? We got to join forces. We got to join forces, man. And so all of them, what did they do? They went back to Medina. And so in Tariq al-Tabari, it records, SubhanAllah. There's a hadith from Rasulullah. What did he say? He pointed once. He came out of Aisha's house and he pointed to her house. He said, Ha huna al-fitna, ha huna al-fitna, ha huna al-fitna. Minha yakhruju qarnu al-shaytan. Here is the fitna. Here is the fitna. Here is the fitna. From here, the horn of shaitan will emerge. The enemies of Imam Ali, his opponents, where did they meet? According to Az-Zuhri, Az-Zuhri narrates this. He says they went to Aisha's house. Exactly like Rasulullah said. They went to Aisha's house and they sat down. They had a meeting, a little war council. Said, guys, we're all in agreement. Ali ibn Abi Talib has got to go. But how do we take him down? Ali ibn Abi Talib in Medina, he's supreme. His power in Medina, he's untouchable. We can't take him on in Medina. And Mecca is nowhere, last time the Meccans tried to take on the Medinians, what happened? They got stomped. So we learned our lesson. Quraysh has learned its lesson this time. We're not going to challenge Ali for Medina, but how do we take him down? There's got to be a way. There's got to be a way, another chink in the armor we can aim for. They decided, wait a minute. Talha has support in Talha and Zubair. They both have support in Kufa and Basra. Why? They bought land there during the reign of Uthman. They were already really famous there. They had allies and supporters there. And so they said, we will go to Basra to fight Amir al-Mu'mineen, salamullah alayhi, because we can't take him on in his capital. His capital is way too secure. There's no way we can take him on there. And I'm going to share a resource. Inshallah, those of you who are not listening to it live will include it in the video. This map shows you the path that Aisha and her supporters took to get to Basra. It's in red. Imam Ali's path is green. In the next part, when we analyze the final build up to the battle before the physical confrontation, I'll explain to you what these two paths meant. But Aisha and her supporters, they took the red path. They gathered together in Medina, in her house, and they decided, we will rebel against Ali, and we got to go for Basra first. If we can seize Basra, it's one of the biggest, richest cities in the Islamic State. If we can seize it, the rest of it should be easy. But we got to get Basra first. We can't face Ali with Mecca alone, right? And so in this meeting, Ya'la ibn Umayyah, what did he do? The guy who robbed the treasury of Yemen, he came to the meeting as well. And you know what he offered? He said to them, guys, I'm with you. I'm gonna support you guys, and I got all the money that we need to make this operation happen. What did he say? He says, I have 400,000 dirhams that I took from Yemen with me. 400,000 dirhams he contributed to their cause. 400,000 dirhams, and he personally bought riding animals for 70 men of Quraysh. And here's the important part. He also paid out of his own pocket. By using this money that he had robbed, he spent 70 dirhams, right? Or 80 dinars, I'm sorry, not dirhams, 80 dinars to buy a big, beautiful red camel. And he gave it to Aisha. He said, al-Mu'mineen, this is a gift for you. You're going to come with us. You're going to be our spiritual leader. You're going to need a riding animal worthy of your persona. Take this. This camel, you know what its name was? The red camel of Aisha was called Askar. Askar, you know what it means? It means army. This is the camel for which the Ma'arakat al-Jamal is named after. And so these people, after gathering in Aisha's house, they decided, all right, now we got a plan. The name of the game is seizing Iraq. If we can seize Iraq, we can defeat Ali ibn Abi Talib. And so who are her supporters? Aisha's supporters, of course, at the very top, Talha and Zubair. And her Zubair's son, Abdullah ibn Zubair, I would argue he was more of a supporter for this cause than his own father Zubair was. He was more passionate about this than his own father was. Right? Marwan ibn al-Hakam also joined forces with Aisha. Marwan knew Talha, Zubair, Aisha, these are the people who killed Uthman. But if he waited patiently, he would get a chance to take out all of Banu Umayyah's enemies in one strike. And so he decided, you know what, I'm going to tag along with these guys, see what happens. Marwan at Jamal, you'll see what he ends up doing. Right? Uthman's two sons, Aban ibn Uthman and his brother, they also joined with the army. Other people, right? I remember one of them was Mughira ibn Shu'bah. He joins with them. But on the way to Basra, he decides, you know what? Who am I kidding? These guys can't beat Ali ibn Abi Talib. If I join them and we fail, I'll never get a chance at getting a governorship. It's better for me to pull back and wait and see who wins this thing. So that if Ali wins, I could say, yay, Ali, I supported you all along. Oh, you know, I didn't come to battle alongside you because, you know, I was busy. I had other things to do, right? I remember another famous report, Imam Ali Salamullahi alayh, the people of Mecca, how fierce were they in their opposition to him, the Quraysh. I'll give you an example. Imam Ali Salamullahi alayh, when he became the Khalifa, he sent someone to be the governor of Mecca. Right? This man's name was Khalid ibn al-As. The Meccan people wanted him to be Khalifa during the reign of Uthman. And Uthman made him Khalifa towards the end in order to try to convince the Meccans to come support him. Imam Ali gave Khalid ibn al-As, gave him his letter. He said, here's my letter. Go read it out to them and tell them to give bay'ah to me. You know what the Quraysh did? Quraysh, one of them, who was a descendant of Bani Abd Shams, after Khalid ibn al-As read the letter, you know what he did? He grabbed the letter. He said, give me that. He snatched it from his hands. He chewed up the letter and then he spat it out. He said, we will never give bay'ah to Ali. We will never give bay'ah to the killer of Uthman. All of these Quraysh, now where were they going? They were marching to Basra, determined to sustain that upper class mentality, that system of, you know, Quraysh are better than everyone else, right? That air of superiority from Jahiliyyah that had managed to persevere during the reign of Umar ibn al-Khattab. That Falta, that was the council that was held to elect Abu Bakr and Umar, they managed to keep that Falta, right? The shar that came from that Falta, they managed to keep it down. Under Uthman, it slowly built up. And now that Ali had become the Khalifa, now that it had come back to Bani Hashim, they were up in arms, determined to preserve the way of life they had grown to enjoy. But with that being said, we will bring this khutbah to an end, inshallah, and in the next part, we will discuss the final stages of the build-up, including how Aisha and her supporters managed to seize control of Basra, and how Imam Ali Salamullahi alayhi managed to raise an army and catch up with them, as well as the Battle of Jamal itself. I hope you all enjoyed, and we will catch you on the next one. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.